The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
At that time, Jesus was led by the Spirit into the desert to be tempted by the devil. He fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, and afterwards he was hungry. The tempter approached and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command that these stones become loaves of bread." He said in reply, "It is written, one does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes forth from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city and made him stand on the parapet of the temple and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down. For it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and with their hands they will support you, lest you dash your foot against a stone." Jesus answered him, "Again it is written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test." Then the devil took him up a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their magnificence. And he said to them, "All these I shall give to you, if you will prostrate yourself and worship me." At this Jesus said to him, "Get away, Satan. It is written, the Lord your God shall you worship, and him alone shall you serve." Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and ministered to him. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
A minister friend of mine told of a small drama he once observed in a restaurant. The players were a waitress, a mother and father, and a little boy about 6 years old. The waitress was taking orders. First, the mother. She wanted roast beef and broccoli and a green salad. And the father, he ordered the same thing. Finally, she turned to the little boy. He started in a kind of frantic desperation, "I want a hot dog." The father and mother barked at him, "No hot dog." And the mother proceeded to order for the child. But the waitress was not even listening. She waited until the mother had finished, and then she said to the little boy, "What do you want on your hot dog?" "Mustard," he said, "lots of mustard." The waitress said, "Coming up," and walked away, leaving the parents in stunned silence and the little boy in wide-eyed amazement. "Do you know what?" he said. "She thinks I'm real. She thinks I'm real." Now, I don't know where that belongs in the books of child rearing, but I do know where it belongs in biblical religion. Right smack dab in the middle. The Bible tells us of a God who believes that we are real. He has placed us in a world where we can order hot dogs, whether they're good for us or not. And if we order them, we can also get them. This is one meaning of the creation story in the book of Genesis. Adam and Eve were given free access to every tree in the garden except one, as you heard. It was declared off limits. It was out of bounds. They were specifically instructed not to touch or to eat of the fruit of that one tree. Not only that, they were also warned that any violation of this prohibition would bring the death penalty. But the strange thing is that this forbidden fruit was readily available. The tree was located right in the middle of the garden. Adam and Eve must have walked past it every day. There was no fence around it. There was no barrier to block access to it. The issue was entirely in their hands. They had to decide for themselves what to do. They could eat or not eat, obey or disobey. It was up to them. And of course, we all know the outcome of that option. The meaning of this symbolic story is that we human beings are endowed with the power of choice, and that is both a burden and a blessing. It's a burden in the sense that we have it whether we want it or not. Adam and Eve did not plant the tree, God did. And they certainly did not make the rule concerning its fruit. God did that as well. And it had the effect of complicating their lives. They were forced to choose. Every day, the same option rose up before them. To eat or not to eat. That was the question. And I think the same is true for you and me. Choice is woven into the very fabric of our existence, and we deal with it every single day. Some of our options are simple and immaterial. For example, we go to Walgreens and purchase a couple things, and as we approach the clerk, she rings up our bill of sale and then asks, "Would you like a bag?" In the great scheme of things, it really doesn't matter whether we carry out our few items in our hand or ask for a bag. But we do have to choose. Other options, however, are laden with consequence. To lie or to tell the truth. To cheat on your spouse or to be faithful. To use drugs or to stay sober. To keep on trying or to give up. How are we to answer questions? How we are to answer those questions matters very, very much. The result may affect our lives and the lives of those we love for years to come. But the tough part is that we have to choose. No one, not even God, can do that for us. There's no doubt about it. Choice is a burden. Making decisions is one of the most difficult things any of us has to do. How much easier it would be if that tree were not in the garden. But it is there, and we cannot get rid of it. On the other hand, the power to choose is a blessing. We concede its difficulty. But when properly used, the possibilities of life flourish like the flowers in the spring. A right choice can put us on a path to an honorable and productive life. The best example of this is Jesus. He had to choose just like we do. His extraordinary life was not handed to him on a silver platter. It was a result of hard choices that he made all the way along. And they were not any easier for him than they are for us. The Gospel of Matthew today tells us of his struggles in the wilderness. He was trying to decide how to use his power. The possibilities were many. He could have dedicated himself to meeting the people's physical and material needs. But full stomachs would not compensate for empty hearts. He could have dazzled people with his miraculous deeds. But glitter and glamour do not change anything or anyone. Jesus could have given himself up to building an earthly kingdom. As a charismatic person, people would have flocked to him, in hordes and gone to battle at his bidding. But earthly kingdoms do not last. In a few years or a few centuries, they're pretty much gone. Finally, he chose the way of the suffering servant. He would help. He would heal. He would wash dirty feet. He would offer compassion and forgiveness to those who were struggling. And at the end, he would die. What an incredibly difficult decision that must have been. But he made it. And today, after 21 centuries, we're gathered here to call that man our Lord and our God. He accepted his power of choice as a blessing and used it to bless the world. What are we doing with our power of choice? As far as we know, God did not give this power to any of his other creatures. A dog is a dog, and that's the end of the story. He can be taught a few tricks. Some dogs are trained to do useful work. But all that dog could ever be is in his genetic makeup. He's born with it. A Harvard professor has said that of all the animals, it is only the human person in whom heredity counts for least. Nature largely finishes other creatures. But human persons must finish themselves by their choices. In the course of every day, we are building ourselves. We choose the bits and pieces that make up our lives. It's hard to do. Choice can often be a burden. But rightly understood and properly used, it's one of our greatest blessings. And so as we enter the first week of Lent, may we give thanks for the gift that it is.